Hey, my friends, it's Leah with your Winning Wednesday, WINSDAY, coming to you on a gorgeous afternoon in Southern Colorado. And as you all know, who have followed me for very long, know that if I get to be in Colorado, then it is definitely a winning week for me. So I hope you're having a wonderfully winning day and a fabulously winning week yourselves. Today, we're going to be continuing in our Wisdom at the Well series, talking about wisdom versus foolishness, the wise versus the fool. And so let's get started in that. We're going to be looking at Proverbs chapter 29, verses 6 through 14. So let's read that together and then let's talk about it. Proverbs 29, beginning with verse 6, says, "By transgression an evil man is snared, but the righteous sings and rejoices. The righteous considers the cause of the poor, but the wicked does not understand such knowledge. Scoffers set a city aflame, but wise men turn away wrath." Verse 9, "If a wise man contends with a foolish man, whether the fool rages or laughs, there is no peace. The bloodthirsty hate the blameless, but the upright seek his well-being. A fool vents all his feelings, but a wise man holds them back." Verse 12 says, "If a ruler pays attention to lies, all his servants become wicked. The poor man and the oppressor have this in common. The Lord gives light to the eyes of both." In verse 14 says, "The king who judges the poor with truth, his throne will be established forever." There sure is a lot of meat in this little short passage. So let's get busy looking at all that it has to tell us. So it begins with verse 6 that says, "By transgression an evil man is snared, but the righteous sings and rejoices." So what is that saying to us? It's telling us that the wicked person becomes ensnared in his own sin, but the righteous or the wise person walks in freedom, enabling them to rejoice and sing. So when you're walking in freedom, you don't feel ensnared by anything, and so you're walking in wisdom, and rather than being foolish about life, you're walking in wisdom, and so you have a lot of freedom, where a foolish person is just going to ensnare themselves in their own sinfulness. So that's all that's saying to us. So verse 7 says that the righteous considers the cause of the poor, but the wicked does not understand such knowledge. I thought about a lot of things in this, and particularly in the culture of the United States, where we tend to have a lot of compassion for people who are less enabled than we are, or have less things, less material possessions or whatever than we do. And so what this is telling us in verse 7, it says that the righteous or the wise person knows and considers the poor and why they are poor to help them out of their plight. So when you have wisdom accompanied by your compassion, you can have a lot of compassion but no wisdom to do anything about what you see, or what you feel bad about, or what you feel sorry for seeing. And so when you have wisdom, then you can consider why is this person in this place? How can I help them get out of this place? Whereas the wicked do not give full consideration. They may see it and have compassion on it, but they don't give full consideration, so they don't really know what to do about it. And so they don't really get it, and they don't try to really know about the person's situation and why they got there. They just want to just kind of throw some money at it, or something like that, just give them a few dollars or give them a meal or whatever, and then move on, instead of trying to help them out of their plight. And that's really what this is getting at. So we need to look at someone, use wisdom, and say, if somebody is in dire straits, or they're in a plight a situation that we can help them out of, and we can go, okay, this is why you're in this situation. Let me help you understand that, so you can get out of this permanently. So that's how we need to look at it, and that's what this verse is telling us. So verse 8 then goes on, and it says, "Scoffers set a city aflame, but wise men turn away wrath." That's kind of pretty easy to understand, really, I think, when you think about it, because scoffers create problems. Scoffers create problems, and they set a city aflame, or set a city ablaze, with a mob spirit and a mob mentality. And we saw some of that happen in 2020. People just kind of lost their minds over all the things that were going on with the pandemic and that sort of stuff. And they created all of these problems, and scoffers were the real issue. It was people that were saying things when they should have been quiet. And this verse goes on to say that the wise person, though, turns away wrath. They use wisdom to stop this nonsense, this mob mentality. And sometimes it requires tough love, allowing the consequences to stop the foolishness. So you've got to use wisdom whenever you see this kind of thing going on, this scoffing going on. And sometimes people just begin to express all of these things, and you go, you're going to create a problem for yourself, and I could save you some heartache by helping you get out of this, but they won't listen to that wisdom, and so they just keep on doing. So you just have to let that tough love take over and go, you know what, you're going to just have to suffer the consequences of your behavior. And so that's what this is saying. Scoffers create problems, but wise people turn them away. Wise people just go, you know what? I'm just going to let go of this problem, this situation, and let it play itself out. So verse 9 then says, if a wise man contends with a foolish man, whether the fool rages or laughs, there is no peace. Isn't that the truth? Haven't you seen that in action? The wise person does not contend with fools, because no matter what they say or do, the fool is either going to rage against their wisdom, or they're going to laugh at their wisdom. They're going to laugh it away. And in both cases, they're going to continue in their folly. And in fact, Proverbs chapter 26, verses 4 and 5 tell us that it just shows us that you cannot reason with someone who is a fool. You can't reason with someone who continues to choose to be foolish, because if you drop to their level to try to contend with them, to try to make them understand your point, they're either going to think they're as wise as you are, or they're going to laugh at you in one way or the other, or they're going to think that the wise person is as foolish as they are. So no matter what the wise person does, they're not going to have peace if they try to convince this person of their folly. And so the wise person opens himself or herself up to an unpeaceful situation whenever they do this. So if you try to show this person that's being foolish, if you try to show them the truth and they don't listen to you, then you have to let it go, because no matter what happens, they're going to either rage against your wisdom or they're going to laugh at your wisdom. So either way, you're going to lose. So if they choose to continue in their foolishness. So that's what this verse is telling us. So verse 10 then says, the bloodthirsty hate the blameless, but the upright seek his well-being. So bloodthirsty fools are filled with hatred for the wise. That's what this is telling us. The wise and upright person. And they try to destroy them. But the upright attempt to preserve and convert the foolish to do and become right and righteous and wise. So a wise person is going to try to help a foolish person get out of their foolishness, get out of their folly, and to do the right thing. But the bloodthirsty fools are going to be filled with hatred for the wise and the wisdom that they have, and they're going to come against them in, like what verse 9 says, with this rage against them. So once you see that that's what they're going to do, you just have to let it go and let the fool or the foolish person, you just have to let them contend with the consequences that they will receive from their behavior. So that's what this is telling us. A bloodthirsty fool is going to hate your wisdom. So verse 11 then says, a fool vents all his feelings, but a wise man holds them back. And I read this and I thought, foolish vent all their feelings. In my notes, I wrote down, can you say social media? Because people on social media vent everything they think. Proverbs chapter 20 verse 3 tells us that any fool can start a quarrel. And don't you know that's the truth? Anybody can start a fight. Anybody can pick a fight. Anybody can start an argument. But it takes a wise person to stop an argument. That Hebrew word there for fool in verse 11 of chapter 29 here is kasil, and we talked about that recently. And it means a person who is kind of being thick-headed or dense or stupid because they're not living for God. They're impious. They're not even trying to live righteously. They're just being thick-headed. Or the word actually means fat. Kasil means it actually means fat. And so they're being a fathead. They're just being stupid because they choose to be stupid, not because they have the inability to think more wisely than they are thinking, but because they're choosing to be foolish. And so we don't want to be like that. So foolish people are always trying to prove their point. They're trying to prove their rightness all the time, and they speak all that they think and feel, and that's what this verse is telling us. And it begins to make them look even more foolish than they actually are, because they just keep on talking. They keep on trying to prove their point and their rightness in their wrongness. So they utter all of their mind, speaking of what or whom they despise or can't stand or whatever. They're venting their wrath. And we just see this a lot. We see this very often on social media, whether it's a political argument, and I think that because this is a political election year, but whether it's a political argument or if it's just somebody they're mad about, they're angry with somebody, and so they just get on social media and they vent all of those feelings and they just throw it out there for the entire world, because I think sometimes people forget the whole world can see that. It's on the internet now. So anybody can pull that up and look at it. And so they forget about it. So they utter their mind, speaking of what or whom they despise. They vent all of their wrath, ultimately appearing as foolish as they are, and even more so. But wisdom gives answers that are strong, not emotional. And they can be repeated without unrestrained temper. So a wise person is just going to speak their mind, or speak their wisdom, and then let it go. Let the wisdom speak for itself. Where a foolish person is just going to keep on talking and looking more and more foolish. A fool uses their emotions as their tools to express their mind, and it leads to rage. That's all it does. It just starts an argument. And so that's what this verse is telling us about. And I thought of social media because we see that so often when people get on social media and they just start acting silly and crazy. And you just go, what in the world are you even talking about? Because they stop making sense because they use a lot of words. And the Bible also tells us in Proverbs that when we use a lot of words, that it ends up leading us into sin, because we just keep on talking when we need to be quiet. So let's go on. Let's look at verse 12. Verse 12 says, if a ruler pays attention to lies, all his servants become wicked. So a foolish leader listens and adheres to lies and falsehoods, untruths, and those who follow them do exactly the same thing. They follow after their leader. So it's like your leader, that's how your followers are going to be. So it's true that, it all starts at the top. If you have a good leader, you're going to have good people. You're going to have good things going on. If you have a lousy leader, lousy things are going to ensue. I mean, that's just the truth. It's just the absolute truth. And Solomon wrote about it. Solomon was a good leader, and he did some foolish things, but he learned from his foolish things. And he said, you know what? I've learned from this, and let me tell you about it. And so that's why we use a lot of his writings, because he said, I messed this up here, so I want to tell you how to do it right. So like the leader, the people will be. That's what that means. So verse 13 says, the poor man and the oppressor have this in common. The Lord gives light to the eyes of both. So a message for all Christ followers is in this for us, because God gives light to everyone. He reveals who he is to everyone. The fool, the oppressor, the fraudulent, the rich, the poor, the borrower, the lender, and everyone else. The key, though, is what do we do with the light we've been shown? That's what the key is. What will we do with the light we're shown? Will we continue in our foolish ways, or will we repent and turn toward righteousness? That's the key. What will I do with the light that the Lord has given to me? How will I carry out the rest of my life from this moment forward, from this light that he has shown to me? God gives light to everyone. What will I do with it? What will I do with this light? Will I walk in righteousness, or will I walk in folly? And the last verse that we're looking at today is, the king who judges the poor with truth, his throne will be established forever. So this just means that the ruler who governs in truth and godly justice will remain established. they'll remain established because the Lord looks at them, He looks at the righteousness of their heart, and they will remain established. So it's a very good rule of thumb for us to go, if I'm a leader, how am I leading the people who follow me? Am I walking in righteousness and wisdom? Am I following after godly principles and leading people in the right direction? This is a great word for us today. Proverbs chapter 29, verses 6 through 14. And I hope it's a good word for you, and that you're going, I'm asking myself this question, no matter what your level of leadership is, whether you lead a state, a city, a corporation, a small business, or lead your home and family. Maybe you're leading a group of children because you're a school teacher. I mean, there are so many different ways. Maybe you're a minister and you're leading a group of people in a church or something like that. So whatever your level of leadership, no matter what it looks like, you need to ask yourself this question. Am I walking in righteousness so that the people who follow me are going to be led in the right direction? Or am I walking in folly and leading people the wrong direction, down the wrong path? It's a great question for us all to answer. So I hope it's a good word for you today, and I hope that you've enjoyed this series. I'm enjoying doing it. And so I want to leave or close today by inviting you to join us in all of the things that we have going on. We're kicking off our children's and youth programs tonight at 6 o'clock, 1000 Emerald Street. So if you have students in elementary school up through high school that you go, you know what, I need a program for them, we would love for you to bring them to the church at 6 o'clock this evening. So our leaders are Kristen and Dell Davis will be leading our youth, and Tammy and Adam Rodriguez will be leading our children's program. So we hope that you'll bring your kiddos and just let them participate in that tonight at 6 o'clock, 1000 Emerald Street there in Wellington at the Church of the Nazarene. And let me finish by inviting you to join us on Sunday. We will be meeting at 10 o'clock for Sunday School and Discipleship. We have classes for all ages from the nursery to the oldest adult. So we hope you'll join us there, 10 o'clock, 1000 Emerald Street in Wellington, and that will be immediately followed by our worship service at 11 o'clock. And we do live stream that service, so if you are in the Wellington area, we would love for you to join us in person. If you're not in Wellington, you can join us right here on this Facebook page. So I hope you'll make plans to join us for either tonight with the children and youth, or on Sunday morning as we meet together. So until I see you again, have a great Wednesday, a wonderfully winning day, and a fabulously winning week, and I will see you very soon. See you then.